Today, I want to give you some clarity and understanding behind one of the biggest hangups people generally face when looking to produce custom products internationally, and that's shipping. You worked diligently to create a custom planner that's going to revolutionize the way your customers plan their days. You put all this hard work and energy into the perfect product for them, but how do you get hundreds or potentially thousands of that custom planner product to your doorstep from a factory internationally? I'm going to break down that barrier, ease your mind, and answer a few questions once and for all. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hey there, I'm Heather Harris, founder of Copper Bottom Design Co., where we help creative entrepreneurs just like you create beautiful planner products and get them manufactured overseas. Today, I'm giving you a little overseas shipping 101. These are the basics. And next week, I'm gonna dive deeper into what to do once your shipment arrives. And it's a good one. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss the boat. So when it comes to shipping your custom planner and getting it safely in your hands or the hands of your preferred destination, there are 3 primary steps involved in this process. And number 1 is request pricing. About 2 weeks before your production is finished, you should request pricing. And this can happen in one of 2 ways, but I recommend doing them both. A, you can request pricing directly from your factory. This is the easiest route to take because the factory will take care of all the nuances involved and you can be pretty much hands off. They literally will take care of everything from start to finish. The second way is to contact a freight forwarder on your own. Now, I like to do this especially if you're working with a factory for the first time. You don't know if you can trust their pricing. You don't necessarily know how they're going to ship. This is the first time working with them, so you might just want to, take a baby step and protect yourself by getting another price quote. But getting multiple price quotes isn't new. We do it all the time when we're spending a lot of money investing on something that's quality and that we don't know much about. I suggest you get pricing both ways and then see where you end up. If you go with contacting a freight forwarder, they're going to arrange the shipping for you and they'll work with the factory to get it all to your final destination. So regardless of who you choose, it's always preferred that you get pricing from multiple places to make sure you're getting a fair cost. Now, a little note on shipping prices. In the very beginning of your product development process, I recommend getting a ballpark shipping price from the factory or contacting a freight forwarder or even maybe somebody else in the business that you know ships planners internationally. This way, you can have a ballpark of the shipping cost to incorporate into the cost of the manufacturing, cost of the tariffs, so you have an overall big picture view of what this big investment is going to be. This will help you budget, and that's key. But like I said, a note on shipping prices is that they change every 2 to 4 weeks. It's much like gas prices. They fluctuate. So this is why about 2 weeks prior to shipping, you want to request pricing again so that you have the most accurate quote. Step 2 is to book and arrange your payment. Book shipping with your preferred vendor. Whoever had the best price, whoever you trust most, whatever your gut feeling is, go with that. Once you choose your preferred vendor, the payment will go in one of 2 ways. If you're working with a factory to ship your order, then the shipping prices will most likely just be tacked on to your final balance invoice for the production and manufacturing. So you'll just pay once for the rest of your planner order, and then you're shipping all together in one invoice. Super easy. If you're booking with a freight forwarder, your payment will be due when your goods hit the port in the United States. It'll be a separate bill that you pay to that company and any other fees associated with shipping your goods. Now, I have a pro tip. There's likely a lot of terms that you're going to encounter and initials that stand for things and you're going to have no idea what they mean. And there's a lot. I could have a laundry list of them for you. But there are 2 key terms that you're going to need to know. There's deliver duty paid. And usually everybody refers to this as DDP. DDP is a good option to choose if you're shipping with your manufacturer, because then they're responsible for everything, making the planner, making sure it gets to the port on time in that country, getting overseas to the United States and following it through even in the ground shipping phase to get to your final doorstep. And that's the one invoice that you pay. It includes all the fees, tariffs, the shipping, you name it. It's a very clean, easy way to go. Free on board, which is FOB, you'll see this term come up a lot. This means that as soon as your goods leave the seller, who's your manufacturer, as soon as it leaves their facility, they're done. The sale is over, their responsibilities are over. At this point, you, the buyer, would pick up the responsibility of getting this shipment from the factory in whatever country it's in to your doorstep. So this is something that you would typically use if you hire your own freight forwarder. The freight forwarder would take ownership of the goods as soon as they leave the factory on your behalf. And there's paperwork that you would sign with them to make sure everything's legal and safe and you're protected. They follow that shipment through to your doorstep. A lot of times when you're in the quote phase, when you're requesting pricing from various factories overseas for your products, you'll see that their prices are based on FOB. They'll say FOB price is X. And that just means that they're not including any shipping costs. They're being very transparent with you that this price is for the production manufacturing phase of the order only. So this is a really good term to understand and know, and hopefully it helps you out. Step 3, and probably the most important step, because it's my favorite thing to talk about, is timelines. You need to know your timeline. Ocean shipping from China, which is where I do most of my business, takes about 3 weeks to get to the west coast of the United States and about 4 weeks to get to the East Coast. Then, once your goods arrive at the port on whatever coast they're at, it can take about 3 to 10 days for your goods to go through the customs clearance process. And this process is unloading the goods from the ship, getting them to it's kind of like a yard, a shipyard or a warehouse outside of the port. And here they go through all the goods, they process them, and it goes through the customs clearance process. I say this can take 3 to 10 days because you kind of never know what's going to happen in this phase. Just last week, I had a shipment that was held up for an additional week. So that was within the 3 to 10 day window that I planned on, which was good. Why I always suggest padding your timing and adding more days for these instances. But it was held because the government decided to x-ray the cargo. And so you just never know. The fact that my goods were held up to get x-rayed is really just kind of the luck of the draw and part of the process. Build in that extra time so if it does happen, it doesn't throw off your whole launch schedule. After customs clearance, we move to ground shipping. Depending on where your final destination is and how far it is from the port, it can take 1 to 2 weeks for your goods to be trucked to your final destination. Sometimes they go on a train from the port. It's really whatever's the easiest, most cost-effective, and quickest way to get your goods to the final destination. That is usually determined by either the factory or the freight forwarder that you've hired to follow your shipment through to the end. So regardless of how they're going, they're on the ground going from port to final destination, gauge about 1 to 2 weeks. And please note, these are generalized timelines. There are many things that can either extend or even speed up the process. It could be port congestion, worker strikes, which we have often seen in the last few years, weather, tornadoes, hurricanes, disasters. We have a lot of wildfires are happening lately. Things like that can also delay a shipment. We obviously can't plan on these things, and we don't necessarily want to build in a catastrophe to your timeline, but you just need to know that these are ballpark shipping timelines of how things commonly occur in my 20 years of business, but things do happen and you just need to be prepared. So as you can see, the entire shipping process takes about 6 weeks, but I like to plan for about an 8-week timeline to have that shipment delivered directly to your door or to your warehouse, wherever it's going. It's better to pad your timeline just in case those things pop up. I'd rather you being planning ahead and getting things delivered early than stressing at the last minute and having to reorganize your launch. Because I've seen that happen to clients and it's super stressful and nobody wants to be in that situation. If you plan accordingly, we can prevent that from happening in the first place. So if you're wondering why anybody would go through this trouble to ship something internationally and import them and go through all this timeline and extra expense and hassle, I recommend you check out my video on working with manufacturers in the US versus China. Pretty sure I'm going to convince you it's worth it. See you next time.